At Thanksgiving dinner, my daughter looked me straight in the eye and said, "Dad, you're embarrassing us with your boring judge stories. Just don't bother coming for Christmas. We want a real holiday." I quietly finished my turkey and went home alone. But at 12:01 a.m. Christmas morning, my phone exploded with a panicked call. "Dad, we're on Fox News. What the hell did you do?" They all froze in horror. My name is Victor Hartwell. I'm 62 years old, and I live in a 3-story house overlooking Lake Tahoe in South Lake Tahoe, California. For 25 years, I served as a federal judge in the Northern District of California, handling everything from white-collar crime to interstate fraud cases. I started on the bench in 1997 at age 40, retired in 2022 after my wife Sarah passed from cancer. These days, I spend my time fishing on the lake, restoring antique furniture in my workshop, and adding to my collection of first edition legal thrillers. My daughter Catherine is 33. Used to be a good kid, at least I thought so. I remember when she was 8, running to hug me every time I came home from court, asking if I'd put the bad guys in jail today. Those memories feel like they belong to someone else's life now. Everything started falling apart about 2 years ago, when Catherine moved back to Sacramento with her 2 kids after her divorce. Helen is 13, sharp as a tack, honors student. Benjamin is 10, sweet kid who loves soccer. Catherine claimed she needed help getting back on her feet financially, so I've been covering her rent, groceries, car payments, $4,200 a month for nearly 2 years. I didn't mind. That's what fathers do. Catherine works as a marketing director for some tech startup in Sacramento, claims she makes $75,000 a year. But I've always wondered how the math works. She drives a brand new BMW X5 with lease payments that have to be $980 a month minimum. Designer clothes, expensive dinners at places where entrees start at $60. Her Instagram shows Vegas trips, Napa, Valley wine tours, weekend getaways to Carmel. The first red flag should have been 18 months ago when she started asking questions about my estate planning. "Dad, have you updated your will since Mom died? Estate taxes can be brutal. You should think about gifting assets now while you're still alive." She even suggested I move into a retirement community in Sacramento, closer to her and the kids. This house is way too big for one person. The real estate market in Tahoe is incredible right now. I smiled politely and changed the subject every time. 25 years on the federal bench teaches you to read people, to spot manipulation disguised as concern. But she's my daughter. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then came this Thanksgiving. Catherine called 2 days before, excited. "Dad, I want you to meet someone special, Maxwell Stone. He's a software engineer, really great guy. We're bringing him to Thanksgiving dinner so you can get to know him." She sounded genuinely happy for the first time in months. I spent all day Wednesday preparing, made the turkey using Sarah's recipe, the herb butter under the skin, apple cider, brine, set the dining room table with the good china, put out the fall decorations Sarah used to love, made sure the guest room was ready in case they wanted to stay over. They arrived late afternoon. Helen and Benjamin ran in first, excited to see Grandpa and the lake. Maxwell followed, carrying a bottle of wine that probably cost more than most people spend on groceries. Tall guy, early 30s, one of those tech types who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. Catherine came last, wearing a designer dress that costs more than my monthly utilities. Dinner started well enough. The kids talked about school. Catherine asked about my fishing. Maxwell dominated the conversation with stories about his startup and cryptocurrency investments. I should have recognized the performance. I'd seen thousands of defendants do the same thing in court. The pleasant mask right before they show their true colors. I made the mistake of sharing a story about a famous case I'd handled, something I thought might interest Maxwell since it involved technology fraud. That's when Catherine's expression shifted. "Dad," she interrupted, her voice sharp, "you're embarrassing us with your boring judge stories. Nobody wants to hear about your ancient cases." Maxwell nodded agreement, actually smirked. I felt something click inside my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd felt that when Sarah died. This was different. This was the sound of clarity arriving. "I see," I said quietly, folding my napkin. "Well, I appreciate you being honest." But Catherine wasn't finished. "And about Christmas? Don't bother coming for Christmas. We want a real holiday, not your depressing stories about the old days. Maxwell's family is flying in from Seattle. We need space for people who matter. Helen and Benjamin froze, forks halfway to their mouths. Maxwell looked, uncomfortable for the first time all evening, but Catherine just sat there, satisfied, like she'd accomplished something important. They left 30 minutes later. Catherine was cheerful again, hugging me goodbye as if nothing had happened. The kids hugged me tight, confused and sad. As I watched their rental SUV pull away, tail lights disappearing down Lakeshore Boulevard, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Cold, calculating anger. You know what's terrifying for criminals? When a federal judge knows exactly where to look. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in my study until 3 a.m., staring at the lake, trying to understand what had just happened. Catherine's words kept replaying, but underneath them, I heard other things. Months of questions about my estate, hints about downsizing, suggestions about gifting assets, the lifestyle that didn't match her supposed income. The next morning, I did what I'd done for 25 years on the bench. I started examining the evidence. Catherine claimed to make $75,000 as a marketing director. Even with my monthly support of $4,200, that's roughly $125,000 total annual income. In Sacramento, that should be comfortable but not extravagant. Yet she lived like someone making $200,000 plus. I opened my laptop and started where I always started financial investigations. Social media. Catherine's Facebook was a masterclass in performance. Photos of her at charity galas, giving speeches at fundraising events. Everything centered around something called the Hartwell Children's Future Fund. I clicked through to the foundation's website. Professional design, slick branding, dedicated to providing educational opportunities and support services for disadvantaged children in Northern California. Catherine was listed as executive director. Maxwell was listed as technology consultant. The foundation claimed to have raised $340,000 over 18 months for tutoring programs, school supply drives, and college scholarships for underprivileged kids. I felt that familiar tingle at the base of my skull, the one I used to get when something didn't add up in court. I spent the next 3 hours digging deeper. The foundation had a Form 990 on file with the IRS. Public record, available to anyone who knows where to look. According to the 990, the Hartwell Children's Future Fund had raised $89,000, not $340,000. That's a $251,000 discrepancy. I sat back in my chair, staring at the numbers. After 25 years on the bench, when numbers don't match, it's never a mistake. It's always a system. I remembered Patricia Fields. We'd worked together when she was an IRS criminal investigation agent during several cases in the early 2000s. Sharp, relentless, treated financial fraud like a personal insult. She'd left the government 5 years ago to start her own private investigation firm. I found her number in my contacts. Victor Hartwell, she answered on the second ring. I heard you'd retired. How's life by the lake? Complicated, I said. I need your help, unofficial and discreet. What kind of help? Financial investigation, nonprofit organization, possible fraud. I paused. The target is my daughter. Long silence. Then, send me everything you've got. I gave her the website, the tax filings, Catherine's social media accounts, everything I'd found. Patricia said she'd have preliminary findings within a week. That evening, Catherine called. Dad, I feel terrible about yesterday. Maxwell said I was too harsh. Holiday stress, you know. The foundation's been crazy busy with our year-end fundraiser. I let her talk, listening for details. The foundation was expanding, planning new programs for 2024, had major donors lined up. All the while, I was thinking about that the $251,000 discrepancy. That sounds wonderful, I said. You must be proud of the work you're doing for those children. I am. It's really fulfilling, helping kids who don't have advantages like Helen and Benjamin had. The irony wasn't lost on me. If my suspicions were right, she was stealing from the very children she claimed to help. Patricia called 6 days later. Victor, you need to see this in person. Can I come up to Tahoe tomorrow? She arrived the next morning in a silver Tesla, carrying a leather portfolio that looked ominous. We sat in my study overlooking the lake. Your daughter's been busy, Patricia said, opening the portfolio. The Hartwell Children's Future Fund has collected $340,000 over 18 months. exactly as claimed on their website. So where's the problem? The IRS filing shows only $89,000. That means $251,000 went somewhere else. She laid out corporate documents. 3 shell companies in Nevada: Future Vision Consulting, Children's Aid Services, and Educational Support Solutions, all registered within 6 months of each other, all listing different addresses that turn out to be mailbox stores. Patricia pulled out bank statements. The foundation pays these companies for consulting services, educational materials, and administrative support. $251,000 total. Then the shell companies transfer the money to personal accounts. Catherine's primarily, but Maxwell's too. I stared at the evidence spread across my desk. My daughter's name on corporate documents for fake companies. Transfer records showing her systematically stealing from people who thought they were helping disadvantaged children. There's more, Patricia said. She pulled out printed emails. These are from Catherine's personal Gmail account. We accessed them legally through social engineering. Maxwell left his laptop open at a Starbucks. Security was minimal. She handed me a printed email from Catherine to Maxwell. Make sure the transfers look like legitimate consulting payments. Keep individual amounts under $8,000 to avoid bank reporting requirements. We need to be smart about this. Dad would kill me if he found out. Structuring? Deliberately keeping transactions below. Reporting thresholds to avoid detection. Clear evidence of consciousness of guilt. This is federal, I said quietly. Wire fraud, money laundering, probably tax evasion. The evidence is airtight, Victor. Any prosecutor in the country would take this case. I looked out at the lake. The water was gray under December clouds, cold and unforgiving. How long would it take you to compile this into a formal report? 3 days, maybe 4. Something bulletproof that even a rookie prosecutor could get convictions with. Do it! Patricia studied my face. Victor, this is your daughter. There's no coming back from this. I thought about Catherine at 8 years old, asking about putting bad guys in jail. I thought about the woman she'd become, stealing from children while living a lifestyle funded by fraud. She made her choice, I said. Now she has to face the consequences. After Patricia left, I called Leonard Walsh. We'd worked together for 15 years when he was a federal prosecutor before moving to white-collar defense. If anyone would understand what I was doing, it would be Leonard. Victor, he answered, don't tell me you're thinking about coming out of retirement. I need advice. Hypothetically, if someone discovered evidence of federal fraud involving a family member, what would you recommend? Long pause. How close is this family member? Immediate family. And you're certain about the evidence? As certain as I've ever been about any case. Victor, once you report this to federal authorities, it's out of your hands. Federal prosecutors don't care about family relationships. If the evidence is solid, they'll pursue charges. I know. Your conviction rate as a judge was what, 87%? 88.3%. Right. So this family member goes to federal prison, probably for years. Is that really what you want? I watched ice crystals forming along the lake's edge. What I want is for people who commit crimes to face consequences. I can't make exceptions just because someone shares my DNA. Leonard was quiet for a moment. If you're going to do this, document everything. Chain of custody for all evidence. Make sure it was obtained legally. And Victor, include a statement explaining your relationship to the subject. Full disclosure will strengthen your credibility. Patricia returned 4 days later with 2 thick folders labeled FBI Sacramento Field Office and IRS Criminal Investigation Division. The evidence was organized like a federal indictment: executive summary, timeline of events, bank records, corporate filings, email communications, even social media posts showing Catherine's lavish lifestyle inconsistent with legitimate income. This is bulletproof, Patricia said. If they don't pursue this, I'll turn in my license. When are you submitting it? I looked at the folders. Once I handed these over, Catherine would be investigated, indicted, probably convicted. Federal prison with 85% time served. No parole. My daughter in federal prison because of me. Soon, I said. That evening, Catherine called. Dad, I've been thinking, maybe you could come for Christmas after all. Maxwell's family had to cancel their trip. The kids would love to see you. I almost laughed. Christmas? They wanted me for Christmas now. Probably realized they'd gone too far, needed to manage the old man's feelings. That's kind of you, I said, but I think I'll have a quiet Christmas here by the lake. Oh, she sounded disappointed. Well, maybe we could come to you. Bring the kids up for a few days. Let's see how schedules work out. We talked for a few more minutes about Helen's honor roll and Benjamin's soccer season. Normal grandfather-daughter conversation, as if everything was fine, as if she wasn't a federal criminal. After we hung up, I picked up the FBI folder, opened it, read through the executive summary one more time. The evidence was perfect. Any prosecutor would jump at this case. I drove to Sacramento the next morning. The FBI field office was in a nondescript federal building downtown. I walked in carrying the folder, approached the security desk. I have evidence to submit regarding a federal fraud case, I told the guard. The agent who came down was younger than I'd expected. Sharp eyes, though. Special Agent Martinez. You have evidence of fraud? Charity scam, money laundering, over $251,000. Interstate wire transfers, federal jurisdiction. I handed her the folder. Everything's documented. She opened it, scanned the first few pages. Her expression shifted from routine interest to genuine surprise. This is comprehensive? You put this together yourself? I'm a retired federal judge. I know what a solid case looks like. She looked at the cover letter, saw my relationship to the subject. Mr. Hartwell, you understand that if we pursue this, your daughter could face significant federal prison time? I understand. That's why the evidence needs to be evaluated objectively. She nodded slowly. We'll review this thoroughly. If everything checks out... She paused. This can't be undone once we start investigating. I understand. I drove back to Tahoe, spent the afternoon working in my shop, trying to stay busy. That evening, my laptop chimed with an email from FBI Sacramento. Your submission has been reviewed and accepted for investigation. Case number SA-2024-1247 has been opened. They'd taken the case. It was real now. Official. 3 days later, a second email arrived. Preliminary investigation has been initiated. We appreciate your detailed documentation, and we'll contact you if additional information is needed. That night, Catherine called. Her voice was strained, worried. Dad, something weird happened. Some guy called asking questions about the foundation, wanted to verify our programs, said he was from a donor verification service. FBI investigators starting their inquiries. Probably just due diligence, I said. Donors like to know their money's being used properly. Yeah, that's what Maxwell said. It just made me nervous. It should make you nervous, I thought. The weekend passed quietly. Monday evening, Catherine called again, more agitated. Dad, now the bank wants to schedule a meeting about our foundation accounts. They're asking for additional documentation about our programs and expenditures. Bank security flagged by federal investigators. The net was closing. I'm sure it's just routine compliance, I said calmly. But what if they freeze our accounts? We have payroll to meet, program expenses. What payroll? What programs? Everything was fabricated. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Patricia. Victor, are you watching the news? I flipped to Fox News. Breaking story about a federal investigation into charity fraud in Sacramento. Sources close to the investigation saying the Hartwell Children's Future Fund was under scrutiny for money laundering and donor fraud. My phone exploded 2 hours later. Catherine, hysterical. Dad, did you see the news? Someone's lying about us. They're saying we stole money from kids. This is insane. I saw it, I said calmly. If the allegations are false, the investigation will clear that up. But people are calling, asking questions. Helen saw something online. She's crying, asking why people are saying mean things about Mommy. The children. I'd been so focused on justice that I hadn't fully considered the impact on Helen and Benjamin. They were innocent in all this. Catherine, you need to get a lawyer, a good one. Don't talk to anyone without legal representation. A lawyer? Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. Then a lawyer will help you prove that. Christmas Eve afternoon, Patricia called again. They're making arrests today. FB, I can't wait any longer due to flight risk. Where? Catherine's house in Sacramento. Should happen within the hour. I sat in my study, watching the lake, waiting. As if 6:47 p.m., my phone rang. Catherine sobbing. Dad, they arrested us! FBI agents, handcuffs, everything. The neighbors were watching. Helen and Benjamin saw it all. Where are you now? Sacramento County Jail. They're transferring us to federal detention tomorrow. Dad, I'm scared. This is real. They have bank records, emails, everything. Who's watching the children? Maxwell's mother came from Seattle. But Dad, I need help. I need money for lawyers, bail. Catherine, I cut her off. Did you steal money from the foundation? Silence. Long, damning silence. It wasn't like that, she finally whispered. The consulting fees were legitimate. Nonprofits pay their executives. Everyone does it. $251,000 in consulting fees for a foundation with no actual programs. Catherine, you stole from children, from people trying to help disadvantaged kids. I was going to pay it back. The foundation was just temporary funding. I had expenses, the kids needed things. Get a lawyer, I said quietly. Don't call me again until you're ready to take responsibility for what you've done. I hung up and turned off my phone. Christmas morning, I woke to 47 missed calls, 39 from Catherine, 8 from unknown numbers, 23 text messages, mostly from Catherine begging me to help, to loan her money for lawyers, to post bail. I deleted them all without responding. The arraignment was December 27th. Leonard attended as my observer. He called that afternoon with the results. Bail denied for both of them. Flight risk due to access to unrecovered funds. Catherine got 6 federal counts: conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering. Maxwell got 4 counts as accomplice. If convicted on all counts, Catherine's looking at 8 to 12 years. Maxwell 4 to 6. How did they look? Catherine looked like someone who'd never heard the word no before and couldn't process it. Maxwell looked terrified. Prison orange doesn't suit either of them. What's next? Their attorney will push for plea deals. The evidence is too strong for trial. Federal conviction rate is 94.7%, and this case is textbook fraud. On New Year's Day, Catherine called from federal detention. One supervised call. Dad, please, I know you're angry, but I need help. The lawyer says I should cooperate, plead guilty, hope for reduced sentence. But even with cooperation, I'm looking at 4 to 6 years minimum. What about the children? Maxwell's mother can't take them permanently. She's 71, lives in a retirement community. Social Services wants to place them in foster care unless a family member steps up. I looked out at the lake, thinking about Helen and Benjamin, innocent victims of their mother's greed. I'll petition for custody, I said. Thank you. Dad, I know I screwed up. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you, Catherine. I'm disappointed, heartbroken, but I don't hate you. Will you bring the kids to visit me once they're settled with you? I thought about Helen and Benjamin seeing their mother in federal prison, learning that crime has real consequences. When they're ready, I said, when you're ready to explain to them why stealing is wrong, even when the victims are children who can't fight back. The custody hearing took 3 weeks. Social Services investigated my background, financial stability, suitability as a guardian. They interviewed me for hours about my motivations, my relationship with my grandchildren, my plans for their care. On January 20th, Helen and Benjamin moved into my house permanently. Helen, 13, was angry. You did this, didn't you? You turned Mom in. Your mother committed federal crimes. I reported it. But she's your daughter. You're supposed to protect family. I am protecting family, I said, looking at her and Benjamin. I'm protecting you from growing up thinking crime doesn't have consequences. It took months, but eventually they understood. Helen excelled in her new school, made honor roll again. Benjamin joined the local soccer league, thrived with stability and clear rules. The first few weeks were brutal. Helen cried at night. I could hear her through the walls. Benjamin barely spoke, just wandered the house like a ghost. They picked at their food, avoided eye contact, treated me like a jailer rather than their grandfather. I didn't force conversation, just maintained routine. Breakfast at 8 o'clock, school runs, homework help at the kitchen table, dinner at 6 o'clock, reading before bed. Slowly, very slowly, they began to open up. Why did you do it? Benjamin asked one evening, appearing at my study door while I was reading. I set down my book. Your mother broke the law. She stole money from people who were trying to help others. I couldn't let that continue. But they're your family. Yes, and that made it harder, not easier. But love doesn't mean letting people hurt others. He thought about that for a long moment. Do you still love my mom? Yes, I always will, but love sometimes means holding people accountable for their actions. Jacob nodded slowly, didn't say anything else. But the next morning, he ate his full breakfast. Catherine was sentenced to 6 years federal prison after pleading guilty and cooperating. Maxwell got 3 years. They both owe $125,500 in restitution to the defrauded donors, half the stolen amount each. Every month, I drive Helen and Benjamin 3 hours south to visit their mother at F&C Sign Dublin. The visits are difficult but important. 30 minutes in a visitation room with guards watching, stilted conversation, long silences. But the children need to see that crime has consequences, that family doesn't completely disappear, and that their mother is taking responsibility for her mistakes. Catherine looks different now, smaller somehow. Prison orange instead of designer clothes, no makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She's taking classes, working in the prison library, actually dealing with her problems for the first time in years. I'm sorry, she told me during one of the first visits. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know that I understand now. What I did was wrong, really wrong. I know you're sorry, I said. The question is, what are you going to do with that understanding? Be better. When I get out, be the mother Helen and Benjamin deserve, the daughter you raised me to be. Helen asked me last month, "Do you regret it, Grandpa? Turning in Mom?" I looked out at the lake, thinking about justice, family, the price of doing what's right. The water was sparkling blue under spring sunshine, ice completely gone, new life beginning along the shoreline. Every day, I said honestly, but I'd do it again. Why? Because some things matter more than comfort. Some principles can't be compromised, and sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice. She nodded, seemed to accept that. Will you tell me about Mom when she was little? The good stories. Of course, sweetheart. She wasn't always... She used to be a lot like you, actually. Smart, stubborn, always asking questions. Spring turned to summer at Lake Tahoe. Helen learned to fish, standing beside me on the dock early in the morning, patient and focused, just like her grandmother Sarah used to be. Benjamin discovered my workshop, fascinated by the antique furniture restoration, eager to learn how to fix broken things. We established new traditions: Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday afternoon hikes around the lake, evening reading time in the living room, all of us with our books, quiet and peaceful. The house that had felt too empty for one person suddenly felt full of life again. Catherine still claims I betrayed her. Maybe I did, but sometimes love means holding people accountable for their actions, especially when those actions hurt innocent children. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable someone's worst instincts. Helen is 14 now, Benjamin is 11. They're thriving in their new school, making friends, learning that stability and clear boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. They visit their mother regularly, but they don't worship her anymore. They understand that adults make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones, and that consequences are real. That's a lesson I hope they never have to learn the way I did. But if they do, they'll know their grandfather chose justice over comfort, truth over convenience. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that save the next generation. Every evening I sit in my study overlooking the lake, watching the sunset paint the water gold and orange. The house is full of children's laughter again. Homework discussions, soccer practice schedules. Helen practices violin upstairs, while Benjamin works on model airplanes at the kitchen table. I think about the choice I made, destroying my relationship with my daughter to save my grandchildren's future. It cost me my child, but gave me the chance to raise children who understand that integrity isn't negotiable, that family loyalty doesn't mean protecting wrongdoing, and that sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. This wasn't about revenge, it was about responsibility. When we see wrong, we have a duty to act. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. That's what separates civilization from chaos, justice from favoritism, love from enablement. Sometimes the price of principle is everything we hold dear, but that's exactly when principle matters most.